If you've ever parked your caravan or motorhome on a sloping pitch, then you're likely to have had an issue with your steps being too short. And if you've pitched on grass, then you'll almost certainly have experienced the step feet sinking into the ground. But you've probably never considered that a 3D printer was the answer. Hi, it's Dave T here, and if you've watched this channel before, then you'll know that I like to come up with solutions to common caravanning problems. So in the case of steps, the first issue to deal with is the feet sinking into the ground, often making an unsightly dent in the awning carpet. There are of course some steps with a wraparound horizontal bar at the base which avoid this, but we found them to be a bit bulky and our current steps have narrow feet. And it's worth noting here that Camper Dometic do actually make some clip-on feet, but they don't fit our particular steps rectangular section legs. But more importantly, I'm trying to solve the height issue as well as the sinking issue. So I've designed and 3D printed these larger feet. The feet spread out the load of the steps, so should stop them sinking into anything other than the soggiest of ground. The next issue is the height, and for that I've designed and 3D printed these discs. Each disc has 5 holes going through them and 3 dowels sticking out on the top, which match the 3 larger holes on the feet. This enables them to be stacked, and with the various 10mm discs and 20mm discs, this means that I can raise the steps by at least 38mm in total. When pitching on unlevel sites, it's quite likely that the ground will be sloping away from the van. By putting more discs at the front of the step, this can help keep the steps level. For added security, I also added a smaller hole in each disc, and these line up to allow a peg to be pushed through each stack to stop them from slipping. Of course, this will mean pegging through the awning carpet though, so bear that in mind. The main inspiration for creating this was when we stayed on a sloping site with a friend that has mobility issues with her knee. This meant that she struggled with taller steps, which in turn made it difficult to find a suitable position for the van. With that in mind, adding more and more discs to raise the entire step is not really the solution, since that just then makes the first step a challenge. The better solution would be to raise the entire step a small amount and then the top step another small amount. The solution I came up with was a fairly simple one involving a kneeling pad fixed securely to the top step. This added 38mm to the top step, so in total I can now raise the overall top height of the step by about 76mm. The finished product is lightweight, easy to use, and the kneeling pad is a useful thing to have around when not being used as a step riser. From a safety perspective, whilst there is a slight additional risk of tipping, on balance, pun intended, I think this is going to be safer than having an excessively large step down from the van to the upper step. We've certainly pitched in places sometimes where the first step out of the van felt a little bit like a base jump, and this has to be safer than that. In terms of longevity, 3D printed components are not as strong as an identical injection molded plastic part. I've used standard PLA for these trial steps, and only time will tell how robust they are. But the forces are mainly compression, so I expect that they will last reasonably well. And it's worth bearing in mind that any failure will not likely be catastrophic. I'll update the description below with my long-term findings. Each disc takes about an hour or two to print, and the advantage of 3D printing means that you can basically just let it run in the background. In terms of material cost, the filament used to print all of the discs and feet is about £3 or £4 worth in terms of value. If you have access to a 3D printer and would like to try them, then I'll put a link to the 3D printable models in the description below. In conclusion, this idea will work with more traditional materials such as wood, so feel free to make use of this design and adapt it, but I wanted to experiment with 3D printing to make caravan accessories and tools. If you have any other ideas for caravan related accessories that could be 3D printed, then let me know in the comments below and I'll try and see if I can make them the subject of a future video. In the meantime, I hope you have enjoyed this video or found it helpful, and if you have, then please hit that like button, and if you're interested in seeing other videos that I make, then please consider subscribing to my channel. But most of all, thanks for watching. That sun's bright.